in this video we're going to look at the process of turning these NURB surfaces that we created out of our spline cage into polygon surfaces. Okay, and the reason we're turning these surfaces into polygon shapes is so we can start adding some of this detail that we can't possibly create with our NURB surfaces. Okay, and you know, some of this is going to be pretty straightforward, some of it is going to get a little more complicated. So let's just begin with one of the most kind of straightforward surfaces, which is something like the hood of the car or the windshield. Let's start with this. Alright, and I want to have an idea basically of how I want to transform this, because in many instances I may want to kind of keep the topology that it has with the NURB surfaces, especially in areas like these where, you know, it would specially kind of turn into NURB surfaces, and we specifically gave it a certain amount of iterations, so when it comes to time to turn them into one object, it'll be easier. But let's just stick to this one. And again, this one is a piece of NURB surface that has you know, 7 spans going across here and then 6 on this direction. So if I wanted to turn this into a piece of polygon that had 42 polygons, I could do it. So I'm gonna go into modify and convert, and we're gonna look into NURB to polygons. Okay, and I'm gonna click on the option box so I can look at the options that it comes with, and I want to make sure that under type it sticks to quads. Under general, depending on the situation, I usually stick to count, because I can actually just tell this tool to give me a specific piece of polygon that has the number of polygons that are required. And again, in this instance, if I want an exact translation of what's going on here, I would turn this count into 42 and just apply it. Okay, and as you can see, now I have a piece of polygon right here, and I'm just gonna put it in a separate layer. Okay, it's gonna be on this one. I'm gonna hide it. So I have my original NURB surface, and I also have this new polygon piece that it was just created out of the NURB surface that I originally had. All right, and you know, it has 42 polygons, like I told it to, or something really close to it. Sometimes it's not going to be that exact. You know, but at this point, it has enough resolution to keep some of the curvature that we originally had with the patch. It's a little blocky, but we can always press on something like 3 and subdivide it, and then it'll kind of be back to what the NURB surface had originally as far as the smoothness of it. And at this point, we have a polygon ready piece that, you know, if we needed to add detail to, we could, because at this point we could actually come in here and add extrusions. Another thing that we would want to do is add a little bit of depth to this, because flat surfaces might not look right for a final product. So to add depth to a polygon piece, probably just select the polygons and do something like an extrusion like this. Alright, that's one solution. Another thing that you could do, again, still has, another thing you could do is also just extrude the edges. like this. Alright, so that way you're not dealing with extra geometry at the bottom that you may not need, especially if it's not showing in your renders. Another thing that you got to keep in mind is that once you do this, it's actually kind of changed the shape of our hood here. As you can see, there's a little bit of curvature. We don't have our sharpness here. So at this point, we need to do a couple touches to this piece of geometry, so it actually works for what we needed to do. So I'm gonna go ahead and start adding a couple more subdivisions, and again, I'm adding this one here with the edge loop tool, so I can have a sharper edge around here. You can see the difference, okay? But we also need to add a couple more subdivisions in order for it to keep the sharpness in other areas, especially around here in the front. Okay, but then again, in this side, another thing that we need to keep in mind is that this piece of geometry is going to be mirrored, so we don't really need these polygons here. And just by deleting these, it's going to take care of whatever weird, or not weird, but whatever smoothing we got going on here as soon as we either subdivide, or if you're doing the subdivide preview with number 3. So again, let me just go ahead and delete these. Okay, and again I can press 3, and just by deleting these polygons, it took care of the smoothness that was going on there. But again, I need to maybe add a little bit of sharpness here to other areas, or this might work just the way I need to. And again, I can always kind of compare to what was going on with my surfaces here, okay? Or I can start turning other pieces of surfaces into polygons and start giving them a little bit of depth in order to see how they're fitting. And again, the way that you go about adding sharpness is by adding more subdivisions like this. Alright, which is why it's important to be able to have nice smooth curvature or smooth a nice flowing geometry in order to be able to create these cuts if we needed to. And again, I think that this is a piece that's pretty straightforward, not very difficult to deal with. Another situation we might encounter is pieces like this one, in which we not only need these are supposed to be one piece, okay? And I created them as separate pieces so I could actually kind of define the shape a little bit better. I kind of needed to break it into separate pieces in order to be able to kind of make some of these shapes. But also I did it in a way to make it easier for me to add some of the detail that I need to add. For instance, a really nice sharp edge that's supposed to kind of happen around here. So some of those I kind of had to think about that for this to work the way I wanted to. So I'm going to go ahead and turn these pieces into polygons, combine them, and then add a little bit of detail that it needs to go in there. So to start, again, we need to turn things into polygons. One of the things that we need to keep in mind is, again, the number of polygons that we need to be able to have in order to be able to connect these. And again, for instance, this piece is about 24 spans, and we could try and kind of create something similar with polygons. So I'm gonna go here, change this to 24 and just click on apply, and I'm going to add it to this layer. And again, one of the things that we're noticing here is that it didn't exactly give me the number of polygons that I needed, or I might have the 24 here but not how I wanted them. So at this point you have two options: either stick to what it's given you here and just make sure everything else is matching, or just try again and just increase the number of polygons so it gives you a little bit of a better result than what you're expecting. In this case, I'm just going to stick to this because it does, this is what I ended up using for this piece right here, and having just 3, it gave me pretty good results. I didn't have to add more resolution. And again, sometimes the better solution is not necessarily having more polygons. So I'm just gonna go back to this piece right here, and again, this one is another 24. So I want to see if I click apply here, I'm gonna get somewhat similar results as the one I did up here. So I'm gonna add it to this layer. Okay, and it has similar resolution where they're connecting, so I'm gonna be able to combine them and connect them pretty well. So that's gonna work fine for the purposes of this piece. So let's go back to surfaces. Alright, so we get these two. Let's see, let's do this part right here, and again this one's gonna be another one that's supposed to be 24, and I apply it. Alright, and again the number of subdivisions is going to be a little bit different, and it's not going to be able to match what's going on up here. So sometimes what you got to do is kind of retopologize your polygons just to kind of be able to make it match. And so I'm gonna walk you through the process of doing that, because again, converting from NURB to polygon, not everything's going to turn kind of the way we expect to, so we just kind of need to deal with it. And again, this one's going to be another one that's 24 or so, so I'm going to apply it. Now this might not work the way we again, I'm just going to go ahead and move this polygon up. Alright, and again this one, it seems like it only has 2 across here, and we need 3, so that might not be a good solution for what we're looking for here. I can just go ahead and kind of increase the count number here, something like 36 or something like that. Alright, and we got the 3 going on in this direction now. Again, let me just add it to the right layer. Okay, and we're going to be able to match this 2 very well, but it seems to have increased the number of polygons that we have here. And another thing that we need to do when we're in this process is actually get rid of the geometry that we don't need, because again, a lot of these nice curvature we can actually accomplish by subdividing, so we don't really need to have these many polygons. And another thing to keep in mind is that sometimes when you have lines that are so close together, it's going to start creating some sharp edges that we don't want. So we just need to kind of keep that in mind. And let's just go back to this surface. And again, this one's going to be another one that's 34. I'm going to stick through a 36 because I know it might not give me the same amount of polygons that I need, and it still didn't. This is again, actually this is going to work just fine. But again, one of the things that we need to keep in mind here is that the number of polygons across here might not match the one underneath. So we're gonna have to go in there and maybe move some of that stuff around. Alright, so now we have we have all the pieces that's gonna create this nice back little piece here. Okay, So we need to start combining, and we need to start kind of attaching vertices to vertices. Okay, and we need to start kind of cleaning our topology a little bit to make our geometry a little bit nicer. So let's start by attaching these two pieces right here. Okay, so I'm gonna select them both. I'm gonna close the convert NURBs to polygon because I don't need them for this part. Okay, and I'm gonna go to mesh and I'm gonna combine them. Alright, so now these two are one piece, but they're still separated. Alright, and again so and we need them to be one piece, so now we need to go into the process of welding these edges or the vertices. So I'm gonna go ahead and again I'm gonna move this down a bit so I can select my vertices and connect them in a more effective manner. So I'm gonna go into my vertex mode here, and I want to use the merge vertex tool. Okay, and I have it here in my shelf, so I'm just gonna click on it, and it's as simple as selecting one vertex and just basically dragging this into the one that you want to weld it to. Alright, so nothing that complex. Alright, and now these two edges have been kind of welded together. Okay, and let's see. Alright, and that seemed to have worked pretty well. Now that's one piece. Now we need to go ahead and attach it to the next piece, which can be this one or this one. I'm going to start with this one first. Okay, and again, one of the things that we're going to need to look into is basically arranging our topology here a little bit so we can attach these edges. And the next thing that we need to do is get rid of the geometry that we don't need. So let's start by arranging our topology so it's easier for us to weld this piece to this piece over here. I can actually combine them right now. It's not going to affect anything. So let's just combine them. Alright, and I'm going to start by selecting this edge right here, and I'm going to be using the it's called the slide edge loop tool. Okay, and again I have a shortcut here on my shelf. If you're looking for it, it should actually be right here in the edit mesh. So it's slide edge tool. Alright, so just select your edges and then middle mouse button, click to just slide. Alright, and again I'm just kind of moving this edge so it matches the flow of the topology on top, and I'm going to be going around here and just kind of doing the same with the other edges that need to be in line. Alright, so something along that. This one can stay where it is. Let's move this one here to the side. And again, I want to use my edge loop tool. Slide edge over just selecting these edges and using my move tools, because this one's going to be using the normal to slide my edges rather than either my world space or something like that, because that could potentially ruin the shape of our piece, and we don't want to do that. We need to keep it as is, otherwise it's not going to work properly. And sliding that piece, I'm going to go ahead and loop select this one and get rid of it because I don't need it. Same with this one. Again, I don't think that one. Okay, that one. It's okay. I'm going to select this one as well and delete that. Okay. And now I need to go into the process of welding. So I'm going to switch to my edge tool here, and I'm going to select my edges here. again, I kind of want to bring them down a bit so it makes it easier for me to select the vertex that I need to weld. So I want to deselect everything else. Make sure I'm only selecting this edge over here. Alright. I can just kind of bring it down a bit. And then I'm going to go into my vertex tool and use the merge vertices, okay, again, which is this tool right here, and I'm just going to go ahead and start welding. This one to this one. Oops. Okay. Alright, and one way that I can test if this is kind of welding correctly is by, using my preview subdivision number 3. And if everything's kind of weld correctly, everything's gonna look smooth as one piece. If this is not working correctly, we're gonna see some weird sharpness going on here where it's not supposed to. There's not supposed to be. So again, we need to kind of be mindful of that. And again, now I'm gonna start kind of maybe fixing these two pieces and then connecting them to this one. So let's start with this. Alright. And again, these two pieces kinda we need to kinda match the topology, maybe kinda clean it up a bit for this to work properly. Again, I can start by maybe bringing down some of these edges on this piece right here. So again, it's just the only reason I'm doing this just to kind of make it easier for me to weld the vertex with the piece on top. Okay, so that's going to work fine, and I can just bring this down a bit. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and again, the same process that we use with this piece over here. We're basically going to select our edges. We're going to move them around to make it match with the topology that's on top here, and then we're going to get rid of the topology that we don't need. Okay, so I'm going to select this edge. I can, just to kind of make sure that I can see both the topology on top and the bottom, I could combine them at this point. If you're not comfortable combining them at this point before you kind of fix the topology and stuff, you could also keep your wireframe unshaded on, okay, like this. But I'm just going to go ahead and combine them. Alright, so it's one piece. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and select this edge right here and use my slide edge tool, okay. I'm going to start moving my edges around to make it match. Alright, we have an extra edge that we might not need, so I'm just going to leave it there until I finish moving my geometry around. Alright, so again, we got a couple of edge loops that we can get rid of, so I'm going to select this one, delete it, delete this one and this one right here, and we also got this one extra. Okay, so now we have somewhat of matching topology, and again, some of the geometry that I have here is a little bit curved. You know, right now it's not being that big of a problem, but I might have to attach it with some pieces down here later on. So if this topology, you know, gets to be a little bit too weird and we need to move it around, you know, we can always use again the slide edge tool. You know, if that's not doing what you need to do or what you need to have there, you can always do something like selecting the vertice. And again, we don't want to move it. I don't want to move this vertice using, I guess, whatever it is that my move settings have it aligned. I mean, what the settings have, which right now it's the world. So if I were to move this, it's kind of basing that on the world coordinates. If I were to try and fix this manually, again, I'll probably want to switch to the normals, because again, that way it's going to be moving it based on the normal of the geometry, not necessarily on the normal on what the world set up. And by doing this, we can still kind of keep the shape of our geometry, but again, you got to be careful not to change the shape that we originally created with the NURBs. Otherwise, you fundamentally have changed the object, and it might not work the way you need to. So let's connect these. Okay. So I'm gonna weld these. Okay, and now that's one piece. And again, everything seems to have weld properly, and I'm just going to do number 3 to kind of subdivide it and kind of see if it's working properly. But now I'm seeing that there is a sharp edge going on here, even though I just subdivided my geometry. And again, if it works properly, it's supposed to be a smooth piece, but this one actually kept the sharpness that it had before. You know, it looks like it's still kind of broken apart. And again, the problem could be that, you know, the vertex weren't welded correctly, but it looks like they are. So if something like this happens, and it's not a problem where your vertices weren't welded correctly, it's because your normals are not facing on the same direction. And again, allow me to kind of explain how this works. I'm going to go into let's see, display, polygons, and I'm going to click on face normals. All right. What this is going to do, it's going to create these kind of green arrows that are basically pointing towards the direction their normals are facing. Alright, and you can see that our normals for this geometry right here are facing outwards like we needed to, like they're supposed to do. But the topology on the top right here, the normals are facing down. So for this to work correctly, we actually need this normals to face on the right direction, which is up. So to address that, I'm going to select these faces, the ones that are facing on the wrong direction. Okay, and I need to reverse the direction of these normals. So to do that, I'm going to go into the normals menu here, and I have an option for reverse, so I'm going to click on that. Okay, and by doing that, notice that now my normals are facing outwards on the right direction. Also, if I do a subdivision, you can tell that the curvature of my geometry is now smooth, and I don't have that edge that I had there before. And again, in order to turn this off, go back into display, polygons, and just click on face normals again. And again, you can tell that our geometry now it's smooth and it's kind of doing what it's supposed to do. So that's how you fix that problem. Alright, so now the next step will be to combine these two pieces. Okay, and again, I'm going to go back and subdivide those. Probably want to select these edges and move them back a bit. Again, just I guess either or doesn't matter. They match, the patches match pretty well there. So I'm just going to move this back and then just attach them to these. So again, I want to go ahead and select both, combine them. Okay, then I'm going to select vertex, and I'm going to weld these vertices. Okay. Alright, and now we have a complete piece. And again, I'm just going to go ahead and subdivide again. And if I were to see any weird sharpness or anything, we'll know that's either the normals or maybe our vertices are not welded correctly. So everything seems to look fine. But now, again, we got to go look back at our reference. Okay, and again, one of the details that we have here in the back is the fact that this line is supposed to be sharp. Okay, but also it's a detail that kind of, you know, it starts kind of here and it goes into the side of the car, but it kind of disappears at this point, so it only keeps the sharpness to a point and then it's just smooth. So again, we need our model to have that type of detail. So again, in order to create any sharpness in a model, especially if you're, you know, subdividing it, what you need to do is add more resolution to it that's close to the area where you want it to be sharp. So I'm going to go ahead and select my edge loop tool. Alright, and I'm going to create a subdivision here, and again, it works as long as I have nice fluent geometry. It's going to cut the geometry the way I want to. Same here. Okay, and again, by doing this, it's going to create a nice sharp edge right here. Okay, and again, that's kind of what we're looking for. But now the problem that we're having is that we have this piece of sharp edge that's actually going all the way to the end, but we actually need it to stop somewhere around here. So we're going to need to change our geometry a bit for this to work correctly. So in order to fix that, and again, I kind of want the sharpness to end right here. So I'm going to take, I want to make sure that my loops kind of end at this point. So I'm going to weld this vertice to this one right here, this one to this one. Okay, I also want to come back here and get rid of these extra geometry that's going to create sharpness where I don't need it to. Okay, and again, notice that it's kind of created a sharp edge all the way around. So again, that's extra geometry that I do not need at this point. Alright, so I just went ahead and selected that whole edge. And okay, my Maya is kind of acting a little bit weird right now. Alright, there we are. Okay, so again, I want to select this, select the loop of edges that I don't need, which are those, and I want to go in here and delete them. Okay, so that geometry was deleted. Now we need to get rid of this one and this one right here. Okay. And again, my Maya is kind of slowing down, so I want to make sure that maybe I do a save as. Let's just go and test for. Alright, just in case it decides to crash or something. As a matter of fact, I'm just going to start Maya real quick. So let me just pause this real quick and then I'll be back. Okay, and I'm back. And again, what I ended up doing was deleting some of the geometry that I created here, and I collapsed the vertices here, so the sharp line wouldn't go all the way out here. And I'm going to subdivide now. And again, the sharpness starts from back here, goes all the way around, continues up to here, and then ends right there. And then we have the smoothness from the surface going on here. Another thing that I could do, again, you want to try and avoid having triangles and things that are not four-sided polygons as much as possible. So I could turn this one into a four-sided polygon just by deleting this edge right here. Okay, doesn't make that much of a difference there. Alright, and then like our first piece, the last thing I want to do is add a little bit of depth by extruding. And again, I'm not going to extrude all the polygons, but just the edges around. Okay, and I'm just going to go ahead and select here, select all my edges around. Okay, and then I'm going to go into extrude. Okay, and I'm just going to extrude everything together. I think that's really nice depth there. And again, I'm having some issues right here, but I'm going to correct that in a second. Okay, because remember, this piece needs to be mirrored, so some of the geometry we got going on here is not necessary. And again, I can just kind of fix whatever problems that I have right here just by deleting these polygons. Alright, and again, I just did that because that's a piece that's going to get mirrored. But then another issue that I'm having is that because of the extra geometry, I've lost a lot of the sharpness that I originally had with my NURB surface. So again, I'm in a situation where I need to add more resolution into my model to keep some of that nice sharpness. So again, I'm going to select my edge loop tool, and I'm going to add a loop that goes all the way around and it's close to this edge. And again, notice that by doing that, I added sharpness. Alright, and again, I'm going to have to go into some of these places and add a couple more loops, keep some of that resolution. Again, let's see if by adding line here what it does. But again, I gotta be careful because again, notice that by doing that I keep my sharp edge right here, but at the same time I went and I actually created a sharp edge right here by doing that. So if I'm gonna add extra geometry here, I need to make sure that it's not something that's going to affect the fundamental shape of my object. And in this case, I guess I can kind of fix this by collapsing some of these vertices here and getting rid of some of the extra geometry that I created, like this. And if I go back again, just by doing that, I've kept my sharp edge right here, and I don't have a sharp edge going up to my geometry right there. Okay, and again, this is going to need a little bit more resolution here to keep some of that sharpness there. So let's just go ahead and do that. Alright, and again, this is another loop that I'm going to create, and it's going to kind of create a little bit of sharpness in an area where I don't need it. or I might, I'm not sure. Let's see. No, that also need to be kind of curved and smooth. So again, I'm gonna add this, and again, I need to kind of keep a sharp edge for this piece to match the other pieces that I created. So I can go in here and do that, but again, I got a little bit of sharpness here that I just added that I don't need. I need this corner, but I don't need that whole edge. So again, I need to come in here and kind of clean up my geometry a bit. And again, I'm trying to figure out what would be the best solution. Perhaps by just collapsing this vertex here and keeping this edge on this side. Alright. And then I'm going to go in here and select that and delete it. Okay. Okay. And again, by just doing that, I was able to keep my curvature the way I need it here. I have a nice, somewhat sharp edge that I need for here. Okay. And we got the sharp edge here, sharp edge there. So, you know, this is a piece that is not complete, and you know, I'm ready to kind of move on to the next piece. And you know, essentially, this is kind of what you have to do with every single piece. Basically, a matter of just figuring out what the best solution. You know, starting from your surfaces. And again, I'm gonna need to make sure this is in the right layer. Starting from your surfaces, and again, this is going to be a process where you're going to look back into the surfaces that you created originally, and you need to figure out whether or not, you know, what you have going on here is a good solution. For this piece right here, again, one of the things that I ended up doing, rather than having a patch here for this piece right here, what I ended up doing is I actually have a patch for this area and one for this one, and then I ended up just kind of bridging this geometry, and then I was able to do this detail here with a bully, and I had to go in there and kind of fix my geometry a bit for it to work correctly. But for the most part, again, some of these pieces is just basically the same workflow as what we did with this piece, which is basically, again, when you're in the NURB surface mode, you basically go in there and you figure out how you want to break up your main surfaces. Okay. And again, if I go into my surface, you'll notice that, you know, this ended up being a whole piece and this is a separate piece. So once you're in a polygon mode, you need to kind of cut everything together, you know, put together the pieces that need to be together, add the extra resolution here to kind of keep your sharp edges like this and that, and again, just making sure that all of our vertices are welded where they need to be, making sure that our normals are facing the right direction for everything to look forward. I mean, to look the way it's supposed to. Alright, so this concludes the lesson on turning NURB surfaces into polygon and adding detail and depth to our polygons. Thank you for watching.